maybe I'm crazy. Uh, Ambitious, but that's, at this point, it's just like you feel like you're trying anything you can just to
Yeah.
make everybody else see
Yeah.
how important and serious this is, because it's still, backyard barbecues for a lot of people.
You're right.
A- And it
I
just
knew
changes.
I knew Colin's job was a dangerous job, and so I knew training also is dangerous because they're training to do these really hard things, and Colin loved it and he was good at it. And he's exactly who should have been at that job, but it did have an inherent risk. It was dangerous. Training is dangerous, and it really hurt. I made a mistake of getting on and reading comments on all of the articles that were posted about him, and people would say, "Oh, killed in training, what a waste." Well, I like to think that he died doing something that he loved, and I think people just don't recognize that the training that they're doing is dangerous so that they can do these dangerous jobs that other people just aren't willing to do. So, it's I should
The-
never read comments.
nope. It is the worst. And that's a lot of the reason why it took me so long to go fully public with this, because it's really hard. It is
Yeah.
really hard to read some of these comments, or for me, I feel like I constantly would post things and then feel like I got corrected by somebody that knew more than I did.
Yeah.
Um, and I could sense a little bit of that in you, and you were like, I telling the story, you're like, I'm not sure of some of the terminology. For me,
Yes.
I didn't use the terminology at all because I got corrected so many times by people that I was just like, I know my story. I'm going to keep my story in my heart how it is, and I don't want to
Yeah.
change it anymore.
I didn't sign up to be a Marine. Like, we got dragged along with Colin, so I don't have to call people by their rank. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? Like, I don't have to do that. And if I don't understand it, then it's because the Marine Corps didn't do a good job of explaining it. We have this big fat report of what happened to Colin, but I can't understand any of it. I'm not a Marine. I don't understand what this report says. So we've relied on other people to try to explain it to us. And, a lot of people aren't supposed to be speaking about what happened yet. So it's been really hard to get the information straight. So I don't quite understand it. What I do understand is it was a training mission. It could have waited until tomorrow. It didn't have to happen that night. When the weather shifted, they should have also waited until tomorrow. If it wasn't safe, that they said, but these guys, somebody was quoted in the report saying that, well, these are like good jumpers and they make extra money every month. They make an extra $200 a month because they're good jumpers. Well, I hope it was worth it. And I asked somebody else too, that was at Colin's service that was there that night. I said, what would you have done differently given the choice? So what would you have done differently? And he looked right at me and he said, well, I've already provided the feedback for the report. And I was like, okay, yeah, but I'm just wondering what would you actually have done different? And he said, I wouldn't have done anything different. And I was like, there's a Marine dead and you're the team leader. So I sure hope that you're going to find a way to do something different in the future. Whether it was Colin's fault or somebody else's fault or, all of these terrible things that made it so that Colin couldn't be saved. There were mistakes made. And I just hope that Colin's not just another number to the Marine Corps, you
The only
know?
thing more tragic would be for them to have not learned the lesson that Colin
Exactly.
gave them.
Exactly. And so some days I feel really passionate about it. Like, I need to be doing something. I need to contact somebody and somebody has to hear me and somebody has to take an interest in this so that they don't kill anybody else. But then sometimes I'm like, I already lost Colin. I did my part. Like, if they don't care, then I don't care. But I do care about Colin's team and I care about every young Marine, you know, who, due to the culture or whatever the reason, if they feel like they can't speak up, if they're in an unsafe situation and they can't speak up, like, then I feel like, well, I didn't sign up for this. So it is my job to speak a little bit louder and say the things that these Marines, they're not allowed to say, you know? They're threatened with losing rank or, you know, why? Why can't they just tell the truth? Why can't they just say what happened that night? I don't understand it. And it's not just Colin's accident, it's, you know, leaving Afghanistan, for a long time, those guys couldn't talk either.
Mhm.
So who's going to be the voice for all these people if the ones who have the answers aren't allowed to talk? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Have you had a chance to connect with TAPS at all?
I have, but I haven't found them particularly helpful. I went to one TAPS meeting and there was one other family, one other mom that was there, and she was very, very nice. Her son, he died by suicide, and we couldn't really relate to each other very much. Um, I don't know. It's still a death, and but Colin loved his life, and not to say that somebody who died by suicide didn't have other great things, but I just had a hard time connecting with her. Um, I'd like to give it another chance with TAPS. They've been very nice. They've reached out several times. I think I kind of haven't been in the space to, be able to get their help either.
It took me years,
Yeah.
and when I finally reached out to them, I was a musician at the time, so my way of reaching out was like, "Can I go play music for you guys?" And I think they may have just seen through it and were like, "Yep, come on." It was the most healing thing for me, and I would
Yeah.
absolutely recommend it for his, siblings as well, if they get a chance.
Yeah.
Just to be able to go talk to somebody else, other siblings, other moms that have been through it, and you realize I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
That the value in that feeling of, like, validation is just it was everything for me at that point. And I
Yeah.
realized that you may be too close to it, but at some point, just keep your head open to it, and,
Yeah.
um, there will be the right time for it. It is, they're a magical organization that nobody wants to be part of,
Right.
and then they 100% have their place for it. Um I'm sorry, is that your only experience with another Gold Star mother so far, was just that one?
No,
Okay.
actually, so that trip to Hawaii, so we went out there with the Recon Foundation, and there were 5 families there that went to Hawaii. But a couple days before that, we were in California, and there were several Gold Star families there. So my kids got to talk with other siblings, and I got to talk with other mothers. My husband got to talk with other fathers. So it was really nice and a really good environment. And, they've said that they'll take care of us, right? Like we're family. And we have really felt it from them. Like their organization has been amazing. So, yeah, and I don't know, I find a lot of comfort with them. And, there's been other moms that reached out to me very early on. And, I've just been very thankful for them, and their sons have died in similar ways. And, this group in the Marine Corps is different, right? They, I don't know, they didn't have the same haircuts, and they were kind of a little more lax about some things, but um, they were good Marines. I don't know. Like whenever we had to deal with the big Marine Corps, like all the formalities of it, you know, when I would talk to our Keiko, who was wonderful, but he would give me the big Marine Corps answer. But then I can ask these guys, like, okay, but how is it really? And they would shoot straight with us. So, it's been really good being part of that organization, and talking with those families that understood like more what Colin's life was like and what his leadership was like.